Good morning, everybody. Orange here with another War of the Visions video, and this week in War of the Visions, we're getting Sheraton, the new Esper Vision card combo. I talked about that a lot last week with my Queen Mashy preview, and the TLDR there is if you're a Queen Mashy player or somebody who likes to play Earth, I would highly recommend going for that. However, that is not the only thing we're getting this week. We are getting a ton of Master Ability 2 upgrades, and that's a big deal because some of these units getting the upgrade are big meta units, like units you still see even at the top end of PvP. I just fought a team that had Black Rose Helena on it in a top 12 guild battle just now, so she's out there, she's getting her Master Ability 2, as well as some others that I'm really excited about. One of them I've been excited about for a long time, so I want to focus on those older units getting some love and the Christmas units who are getting the upgrade coming with the winter rerun this week. Let's dive into that. So here we go. I want to start with Black Rose Helena. I think of all the units getting the upgrade this week, she's the most popular one. However, I don't think her upgrade is, the best necessarily. Here's what hers is. Previously, she was running with that HP Dark Attack. She had 20 magic attack resistance penetration and 10% magic for herself. All of that's staying the same, none of those are changing. She is just also gaining a little bit faster cast time by decreasing her skill activation, and she's picking up 15 Spirit Pin. So overall, this is a unit that was already really usable, already really good, just becoming a faster caster, which is always nice, and picking up 15 spirit penetration will help her do a little bit more damage. I don't think this drastically changes her power ranking in the game, but it just makes her marginally better, right? It sucks if you die channeling a spell. Maybe she'll do that a little less now and hit just a little bit harder. It's a decent upgrade for a unit that was already really good. Next up, Ruinstern. This is the one. This is the most excited one I've been for dark units that I want to start working back into team comps. His Master Ability 2 upgrade is bananas good. It's bananas good. So previously, his old Master Ability for being ancient was actually decent, right? 20 defense pin, 10 slash attack. That's okay, right? For when this dude came out, which was a long ass time ago, that's pretty good. Now, he gets the HP and dark attack buff for his group, so that's immediately great for him. He gets a Laswell shield to start the fight. So he begins the fight with Laswell's Mirage shield buff, so he just doesn't get one shot. This man was kind of he was really high risk, high reward before this. If you could set him up in the right team, he could walk out there and Hazard Crusher the whole map and just kill people for you. Or he could get caught in a random AoE and die. This will make it so at least one random AoE won't kill him, and he's getting more too. His defense pin and slash attack stay the same. He's picking up slash attack resistance penetration and 20% more HP, so giving him more damage and more survivability even on top of that shield. Because remember, he didn't even have this HP buff for his dark allies, which includes himself, right? So here's 10% more HP buff for him. Here's another 20. He's getting a little bit thicker, gaining more damage, and crucially, gets the ability to ignore damage one time. That means if you can give this dude a re-raise or something like that, potentially he could take 3 or 4 hits before dying, and for Ruinstern, that's a big deal, because this man deals damage. I think he instantly jumps up in power rankings with this buff. It is top tier, great upgrade for Ruinstern. Next up, another 100 cost unit getting the upgrade. This is one of the least used 100 cost units in the game. A part of that is because she's a fire unit, and fire, I mean, maybe I should do an elemental tier list pre 2.5 year anniversary. Spoiler alert, fire's not very high on that list, but here it is. Now, she already had HP and fire attack for her group before. She had 10 AoE resistance, which is nice, and then attack activation time down. Okay, not a bad master ability, but not a lot there. Helps her do damage. Her new one is a skill upgrade. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Then she's getting 10 more AoE resist. The cast type stuff stays the same, and she's picking up 20% more magic. So overall, just looking at what you're seeing on this page, this is okay. The magic buff will help her do more damage for sure. That's nice. More AoE resist. Yeah, let's make her a little bit tankier. That's fine. There's a lot of good tanks in fire, so that's one area where fire doesn't suck. So stack AoE resist on another unit, and potentially you have somebody who can live for a while and do some work. Now let's look at that skill that's getting upgraded for her. It's this one right here. She's getting a break magic barrier on one of her harder hitting moves, right? It's a 200% modifier damage with an increased modifier if the unit is affected by Sleep, Berserk, or Auto Restore. So this is a big hitter, and it breaks magic barriers, which are kind of all over the place. She's still a good unit. Like, Classy Glassy here is somebody who can still put in some work for you if set up correctly in the right team comps. She's a little bit better now than she was before. More magic, a little more AoE resist. It's not the worst thing in the world. She can break magic shields now and will have bit magic stat. Okay, next up, Charlotte. Now, Charlotte is a unit who definitely was very usable before. Lightning, this is a great tank that they have. I love Charlotte. She's all over the place in this game, and rightfully so. And I think there's some interesting build options that come about with Charlotte's new master ability. Let's check it out. Previously, she had HP and lightning attack for her group, so she already was bringing that. She got 10 spirit and 5 HP for herself. Charlotte is known as a great tank, and especially a great magic tank. Her old master ability with that spirit and HP really helped for that. What's she getting now? She's getting a skill upgrade. We'll go look at that here in a minute, because I think it's important to talk about that when you're talking about building Charlotte for the future. Her HP and her group buff stays the same, spirit stays the same. Her HP buff goes from 5% to 25%. That's a big push. For a unit that, like, scales well with HP, that's a big HP jump. And then, really importantly, she gets increased chance of being targeted by 5 for herself. Here's the deal with Charlotte. Let's go look at her skills. And let me explain to you about running Charlotte, right? Previously, if you were using Charlotte, in my opinion, she needed 2 turns of ramp up time. You needed to be able to cast this buff, which was your increased chance of being targeted that came with a defense and spirit debuff resistance 50%. This was turn 1. Then you're okay. You're like ready to go in there and start tanking. But you really also then needed to cast this monstrously good buff that gives you, defense. It gives you spirit. It gives you protect. It gives you shell. It gives you regenerate. This is the buff that makes Charlotte into the god tier tank that she can be. Okay. Now you start the fight with hate. So you might not need to cast this. You could start by casting this, which means your tanking ramp up is reduced to 1, which means you could work in some other buffs in a longer map, or maybe she's more usable on a short map. Really big improvement to her right there that I think some people don't see coming. If we're talking about the skill upgrade, her skill upgrade was her hate buff. It's not super good, I don't think. It turns her defense and spirit debuff resistance from 50 into 100. So she's undebuffable with her defense and spirit, but it doesn't help with penetrations at all, right? So it's still okay. And then she gets a debuff resistance to all elemental resistance. Think about like a Black Rose Helena limit break, how that reduces your dark resist. It will now not do that to Charlotte. So her hate buff did get a little bit better. However, if you want to now, I do think there's really fun build options with Charlotte where you run this buff on turn 1 or early on in the game and mix in something maybe even like her shield, which this piece of gear is probably super underused. The Grand Shell shield, this could give her a 35% damage reduction shield. So she could walk in with protect, shell, defense buff, spirit buff, regenerate, and a 35% damage reduction shield. And it gives her 15 AP, so she can start doing some of her moves, like her lightning debuff moves, or lightning resist debuff moves, stuff like that, agility debuffs. Charlotte is a great tank. She actually gets better significantly, I believe, from this Master Ability 2 buff. I already had her ranked pretty high, so I don't think she goes up in rankings. She just is good, and now she's better. I really like this Master Ability 2. Okay, we did get some not UR unit upgrades. I won't spend a ton of time on these. Ryu got one. He's a cost 60 MR unit. Previously, he had Dex, crit damage, and range. Now he will get an HP and blind resistance for his group. And I'm not gonna lie, in Guild Wars today, Dark Leela blinded my Oberon, and then he couldn't hit her. So, blind does suck. So it is nice to add a little blind resist, maybe if you're using him for a, limited cost team, something like that. The dex, critical damage, and range buff all stay the same for him. He then also gets AP consumption down 25 and defense pin 20. So if you're trying to use this guy in some kind of limited formation, his buff is nice if you're going to work him in. Not game changing, he's still MR Ryryu, but it is what it is. It's a nice little buff to him. Vadim, an SR unit, cost 40. He gets his master ability buffed like this. He had evasion, pierce resist, magic resist before. He still only has those 3 things. However, the evasion rate goes to 25. That's pretty nice. The pierce and magic resist go to 50. This dude walks off the bench with 50% pierce and magic resist. If you find yourself in situations where you can almost guarantee you're going to be hit by pierce or magic resist, it really wouldn't be hard to get his numbers very high. I still don't really ever use Vadim, so maybe if you are somebody who works him into some cost limited teams, here you go. You got a little bit more evasion, pierce, and magic resist. It is what it is. Let's move on. Christmas units. Here is Winter Venera getting her master ability too. Previously, she already had the HP and earth attack buff. Now that'll stay the same. Her attack 20% buff from before turns into an attack 40% buff. So leaning into her damage a little bit and a 40% chance counter doesn't activate, that's really good. Overall, I don't think they gave her enough to make her more of a top tier unit, but she is a striking damage dealer. If you set her up correctly, she can do some damage. This attack buff and counter off will help her with that. Not enough love to maybe make her top tier, but I've used her effectively in the past before. I think she's a fun unit at 80 cost. There you go. That's Winter Venera. Okay, Winter Viktora. Here's one of the most used winter units in the game. Previously, she had the HP and water attack buff for her group and AP consumption down 20. Not a very good master ability, if I'm being real. This HP water attack, that's nice, but everybody gets that eventually. And just having decreased AP consumption, kind of meh. What does she get now? Well, they doubled down on the AP consumption down, making it 35. I actually kind of like that. If you're using bells in your group and you really only want to work it in on one unit, maybe with her and this AP consumption down, you can have her not be somebody who needs bells. That's kind of cool. And then she's getting 25 accuracy. So leaning into giving her the ability to fight evasion teams, which you do still see around in this game. Overall, I think it's a pretty good upgrade, right? It's not bad. I wouldn't have mind seeing a little more damage put on here, but when you're fighting evasion teams, basically it comes down to can you hit them or not. She will now be able to use more abilities and hit them more effectively. There you go. That's Winter Viktora. Next up, Winter Ramada. This is another one that I think is very, very good for both PvP and PvE. This is a girl I really like to use in guild raids water teams. She got a lot better in that regard as well. Let's talk about it. So her old master ability sucked. Critical rate 10, attack 10%. At least both of those helped her do damage, but it's just not There's not a lot there. There's not a lot there. It's clearly an old Master Ability 2, or Master Ability 1. Now, her Limit Break is getting upgraded. We'll go check that out here in a minute. HP and Water Attack buff for your group. Thank God she needed that. Critical rate 10 stays the same, attack 10 stays the same, and she picks up 40 defense penetration. Now, 40 defense pen is a nice big number. That is a significant buff to her PvP damage. Let's go look at her limit break that's getting upgraded right here, because this is what I really like. So, here it was before, right? 38% slash resistance debuff. 210% damage. This slash resistance debuff is very nice for guild raids and things like that, especially considering she's a unit that can bring multi-hit attacks for your guild raids off the bench. She is a strong, she's a very strong guild raid unit, right? And she's a double-headed sword wielder, so you can use the triple trick vision card on her as well. Now, if for PvP's sake, you will get a 100% reduced damage taken buff. So you know how Ruinstern is getting that Mirage buff that Laswell has just to start the fight? With Winter Ramada, you will have to get her to use her Limit Break in order to apply that, but after she uses the Limit Break, it'll be on her. And the previous huge problem with this Limit Break was the huge cost of the Limit Break. It was 63 AP. That's a ton. It goes down to 43. That is real significant, again, for both PvP PvP and PvE, because if you were using her in PvE that was like any sort of extended fight at all, man, it's tough to drop a 63 AP move on like the first turn and still be able to do anything afterwards. You basically had to equip her with some kind of AP restore or something like that. Maybe now you can get away with dropping this and another move for like shorter fights. I don't know. I think it's a really good buff. This move got a massive upgrade. That's what I'm saying. And I think she will be more effective as a both PvP and PvE unit, so I think they did a good job with her. She's still not going to be a top tier PvP unit in my opinion, but more usable, yes, for sure. For sure, more usable. Okay, maybe worthy of 80 cost. Maybe just being worthy of an 80 cost now. Okay, and then Winter Mashy. We are all about Mashy lately in this game. The Christmas version of her previously had Ice Resistance 10, Agility 10%. That sucks. That's a really bad master ability. Now she gets that HP Fire Attack buff. Excellent. If you're running fire, you need all the buffs you can get. Her old one stays the same. Ice Resistance 10, Agility 10, and Agility 10 is nice. She now also gets Defense Penetration 30, so that will really help her do damage, and she picks up some Slash and Magic Resistance as well. It's a pretty good buff to her. The big thing here is if you like to use her, she's going to help your fire teams out more with this group buff and do more damage with this defense pin. That's really kind of what it comes down to with her, in my opinion. And that, everybody, is the last of the Master Ability 2s coming out. So, what do I think about this week? I think if you already have winter units and you just want to work on like maxing them out or something, go ahead and go for it. Spend a little bit of Visior if it's not going to cost you much to finish off some of these old units, or, you know, maybe if the banners are insanely good, like there's one of those like level 99 guaranteed 2k paid banners, maybe go for something like that. Otherwise, I mean, guys, the limited Guild Wars map is ice buff. I wonder if like Snow and Agrius are about to show up or something. I wonder. So stay strong if you're staying strong. You might only have 1 week left. Finish some winter units up or enjoy some new master ability buffs. And if you're an Earth player, I would recommend picking up the Vision card Esper. And that will do it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will catch you next time. Peace.